Hello, my name is Debbie, Owlandgatorstitcher. Welcome to Flosstube number 49. Today is Wednesday, March 1st, 2023. This is a video mainly about cross-stitch, sometimes about what I'm reading and watching and what's going on in my life. I hope everyone has had a good couple of weeks. It's been a little bit less than 2 weeks since I filmed my last video. My past 2 weeks have been a lot of fun, and I'll get into that a little bit. But I want to thank everyone who is here. If you're a new viewer, welcome. I hope you like what you see and you'll click on that subscribe button. And if you're a returning viewer, thank you so much for coming back. I really love interacting with you in all the comments, and I got some really good suggestions from my last video. So again, welcome to everyone. And right now, I'm just going to say it, fingers crossed, that this video actually records properly. My camera has been acting up. I guess this is you get what you pay for. I'm using the camera in my tablet, and sometimes it just gets a little sticky. That's the only word I can think of. But hopefully, whatever the issue was, the software has resolved itself. So anyhow, before I get in and show you all the stitching, I just wanted to let you know my husband and I took a little trip this past weekend. We went to Pensacola for about 3-4 days. He had an event that he wanted to attend there, and so I went along with him. It's about a 5 to 6 hour drive, so it's sort of a long haul to get there, but it was great weather and it was an easy drive. It's Florida, so it's basically flat and straight most of the time. So when we went, it was my first time going to Pensacola, so we actually stayed at Pensacola Beach, which was probably a mistake. My husband and I are more into history and culture and things like that, and nature. And I do like walking along the beach, but Pensacola Beach, a lot of people shoved in, and everything, like all the restaurants are basically here. We'll give you some version of fried food, which I love fried food, don't get me wrong, but I don't need to eat it 3 meals a day. So we did get a nice walk along the beach. It wasn't too hot, but it was quite crowded, as can be expected. But we went to Fort Pickens, which is a fort at the end of the island where Pensacola Beach is, and absolutely gorgeous and quite relatively deserted. So it's nice just to be able to walk around and see some of the history. And Fort Pickens was a fort, was built, I believe, in the 18th century. But in the 19th century, at the beginning of the Civil War, it actually was held by the Union soldiers. So even though Florida was a part of the Confederacy, they were able to hold it at the beginning of the Civil War. They did lose some other forts, but that one was held by the Union. And if you know the geography, it was a really important point. Pensacola is an important port, so it is an important place. And then, but then we also just went into Pensacola quite a bit. Had some great food in Pensacola proper, and there's a history museum, and just got to walk around. It's really sort of a little charming city. I never know what to expect. But we really enjoyed it. Don't know if we're going to get a chance to go back anytime soon, but definitely more to explore there. We didn't really get a chance to do everything that we wanted to do. So with that, that's sort of all. It's really been interesting the past couple weeks. I'm just going to jump in and start talking about the stitching. So for those of you who haven't watched me in a while or are new, a lot of my stitching is based on Facebook games, prompts that get me to be encouraged to stitch. And sometimes it compels me to pick up a project I haven't done in a while, or even have a new start. And that is the case of the first piece I'm going to show you. It is a new start. I showed you my finish from in my last video, a small finish. And this is one that's it's not a small piece, but I wanted to go ahead and start it. One of my games, I needed to use a specific color of DMC, and it wasn't popping up anywhere useful. And I had it in one project, but it would have been hundreds of stitches away, and I wasn't going to do it. So, and this is a piece I've had sitting around for a while. So I'm like, might as well, this is the perfect excuse to go ahead and start it. This is The Gentle Rain by the Blue Flower. So lovely scene there. And I just took a piece of fabric that I had in my stash. I didn't have anything of this pinky color. And I didn't really like this color. I mean, it's meant to be rain. I wanted something either gray or blue. And so I found a piece of blue in my stash. This is called Frost. It's from Stitch Me. It's when I was in her Fabric of the Month Club. And I picked this up and put it upside down. So here is where I am now. So the color I needed was 937, which is that green. So I did some leaves, and then I just did a little bit more of the brown. I originally, so not too much to see there. That's only a couple hundred stitches, but I'm glad I got this one started and can put it into my active projects pile. I originally thought, so you can sort of see, and it's deliberately meant to be light, but you can sort of see all the way around where it says, anyhow, I'm going to put my glasses on, excuse me. How sweet the music of the rain. And then there's sort of around it. And I just thought that was sort of decorative, so I wasn't really paying attention. And so it calls for a pale blue. And I thought I can just change that to something else. And then as I was starting to stitch, I realized that is actually like meant to be a rain cloud. And then you can sort of see some here. Again, they're very hard to see, the pale blue. So I was originally thinking I had a pale purple that I thought would go really well. Instead of that, I think I'm just going, I do want it to be something bluish, something that looks a little bit more like water. So I am going to have to go through and find a different shade of blue that wouldn't blend into this fabric to get that. But again, as you can, I'll even take this out of the plastic so you can't see the glare. But even on the model, you can make it out, but it's hard to see it. It is meant to be very pale. But so I'll have to figure that out. Not sure when I will pick this one up again, but I love the blue flower and I love this pattern. So I would say it would be sooner rather than later, but I am putting a lot of energy this year into working on Huckleberry Farm. And so not sure that I am going to get a chance to pick it up again in the near future. All right, the next piece I want to show you, this is one that I am doing in a round robin with a group of people. So this is The Haunted Mansion by Tiny Modernist. So basically we all had to do the frame of the house. So the walls, the roof, the moon. And I can't say everyone, but I think most people actually did something with fancy floss with the moon. Personally, I don't like all that orange on the moon. It just seems a little stark to me. But again, this could just be the picture and the printout, and it might actually be more subtle when you actually stitch it with the colorful colors. It is called for DMC. I personally I found a fancy floss, wasn't in love with it because it had too much white, but it worked for me. But anyhow, my project is off. If you want to see what it's been done to it so far, you can go to, I believe her new Flosstube is the Enchanted Stitcher. It used to be Fairy Rose. But she changed her Flosstube name. So she held up and she did one of the rooms. And we all are picking, there's no like, the first round you do this room, second round you do this room. It's pick what you want to do. So I picked this room. I showed a little bit of this last week because it had the cat. And if you watch me, you know I love cats. And so I wanted to make sure that I got at least one where I could do the cat. And there, I had part of it done, but I finished the bookshelf, put the eyes on the cat, finished the broom, finished the witch. I think I needed to do her hair, and finished and got all the back stitch in with this little spider here. And then put she asked us to put our initials in the block, so I put my initials there. So I think, I know I mentioned this in my last video, that the person whose piece this is, does her top leg in a different direction than I do. And I was talking about a little bit how I was not struggling with it, but having to change a little bit how I stitched in order to do that. And the person whose piece this is had no issue with doing it. If I would do it, what's more comfortable for us, but I wanted to sort of honor the piece. And then one of you kindly reminded me, and this is something I knew, but I didn't think of. So it was very good to have the reminder, which is if you're ever in that situation, turn it 90 degrees. And then you can do your stitches as you normally would, but the leg will end up in the right place. Now, if you were to turn it upside down, then it's back to the way you usually do it, and so on. And which some people will do that if they like to say stitch towards the bottom of a piece, but the stitches are actually at the top. So anyhow, had a lot of fun stitching this room. I don't know. The next one, we are supposed to be mailing these off within the next couple of weeks to get it by the middle of the month. So I'll get it then, and I don't know which room the person before me did, and so don't know which room I'm going to do next. Obviously, I'd like to do a variety of them. I'm not going to keep doing the cat room, even as much as I loved it over and over. But if I have to repeat a room, that's fine too. We also had the trees and stuff on the side. So this was a lot of fun. And so thank you, Anne, for including me, for organizing and including me in this. So this has got, I held on to this, and now I need to get it out into the mail to the next person. Next piece that I worked on, this is the Grand Library, charted by Heaven and Earth Designs, artwork by Amy Stewart. And not a huge amount since I showed this last time. This is by far my largest project, 715,000 stitches. And I keep saying I was working on this goal. Still have no idea what it is. This sort of interesting design has come into it. Finished almost all of this piece, and it's got a distinct line here. There are a few ninja stitches in here. It's the supersize max coverage, so there is a lot of confetti stitches and rogue stitches in here. Sorry, ninja stitches in here. So it just takes a while to do it. And then I was doing that. And then I have to admit, I just got so frustrated of, having to pull a strand for 2 to 3 stitches. And I'm like, I just need something I can do a lot of. So I had to pick, I think it was 939, picked it up and just started doing a little bit up here. Do want to finish this part down here. I also know for one of my March challenges, I need to do 1,000 stitches in black. So, this is coming out because it will go very quickly, and it's a lot of black that goes up here, and then sort of on the other side here, a lot of black here as the shelf continues. So we'll have that should go very quickly when I do pick this one up again. So that is the Grand Library, artwork by Amy Stewart. Okay, next one is one I started in December of 2022. And this is the Jane Eyre Stitch Along. So Sapphire Mountain Handcrafts and the Stitching Book Club. She did not do it as a mystery stitch along this time, but she had it broken up so you could do a little bit each time. But it was basically, you got the whole pattern and she broke it up. And so do a little bit each week. I didn't keep up with the first one and realized that because I had some other big goals that I wasn't going to be able to keep up with this, and I'm fine with that. But I also don't want to I am so hopelessly behind if I think the actual stitch along finishes in mid-March. But I did want to pick this up and work on it again. So here's where it is now. So before I had this whole basket done and a little bit of the stems here. So I did this whole flower over here, part of the flower over here, a little bit here, and then just colors as I was finishing off the thread on the needle. One of the interesting things on this, and it's meant to be this way, these are not perfectly symmetrical. So you can see here, it's missing, like it's not these full ones are 12 stitches. It's got this little bite taken out of it, and then it's got a little bite taken out of it over here as well. And it's obviously the cover is just a mock-up of the pattern, but then she also has pictures of the actual stitching, like for each section. So you can see, okay, and it is stitched that way as well. I'm fine to do it that way. There's a part of me that says, fill it in because it's bothering you, but it's not, these flowers are not perfectly symmetrical. The basket is, but these are not. So for now, I'm going to leave it. I can always go back and fill it in if it really bothers me at the end. So again, not even done with part 1. All the flowers, and then there may be something at the bottom here as well. So again, this is a slow stitch. Once I sort of conceded I wasn't keeping along with the stitch along, then I just sort of said, I'm not going to keep up. And so I'll just put it in my pile of projects and pull it out as I feel like working on it. Okay, so the next one is another full coverage, and this is Little Cake Shop, artwork by Amy Stewart, charted by Heaven and Earth Designs. And I've got this out of the Q-Snap. Oops, sorry, I'm throwing my pile everywhere over here. So here is where it is. So that's all I've done. So this time I was working on the ceiling here. So a lot of the blues there in the ceiling. So not a huge amount done, but a lot of fun working on it. And it's always nice to see it pull, when you have it in the Q-Snap, and I actually had it in a small Q-Snap. I had it in a 8.5 by 11, a sort of hybrid keyed snap that I put together because it fits better in the project bag I have with this. So I only could see a very small amount. I basically could only really see the ceiling. And so it's nice to be able to pull it out and see all that bright pink and sort of just see all the lovely colors in it, which is what, in addition to cake, because I love cake, part of the reason why I was drawn to this piece was all the bright colors. Next piece is a year at Hawthorne Hollow. So I had finished this column here and I'm working on the bottom here. So I'm working on November. And here is where it is. So basically put in a lot of the, can't remember which color this is. It's 3829, but put in a lot of that. And so I don't even know what these things are. On the picture, you can sort of see them there. I don't really even know what those are. If it's meant to be wheat or corn after the corn has been harvested, stalks. I don't really know what that is. But you can start to see this is the tail feathers of the turkey. And so start to see that coming in. And then this is the hill that the turkey is standing on, the ground. And then even the end for November. So it's Hawthorne Hollow. It's I love the way she doesn't have a huge number of colors, but she uses them in such a way that a really vibrant design comes out. So really enjoying working on this one. Okay, and then the next one is O Joyous Day by Blackbird Design. I think you're familiar with this one. And got a lot of work in on this one. So last time I showed you, I had, I think, a couple of like the, not the panes, I always forget what those are called, the parts that hold the panes in the wood frame of the windows. I had like one of those done and maybe a little bit more. But so basically what I did this time was I literally what I call built the house. So put everything else of the house, filled in the actual like window panes, the house, the door, the roof. And love how the variegation has come out. I was very deliberate, like on the roof. I was doing my lines in a diagonal till I got like in one direction till I was going to the center and then did it in the other way. And I think it came out really nicely on that. And then I also, there's some specialty stitches, which I hadn't put in before. So I put in, these are Smyrna crosses on the berries that the bird is holding. There's in these things, there are some embroidery stitches, and I think there may be some more embroidery stitches or non-embroidery stitches, Smyrna crosses elsewhere that I put in. And then I came down here and just started doing some of the border, and as colors were on my thread, did the alphabet. There's another alphabet that goes, or half of the alphabet. Top is up here, and it's a repeating alphabet. You can kind of see it here. So there's several A's before you get to B and all of that. So this is the second half, but it's not just 13 letters. A lot of fun working on that. So I will continue to work on it in the vain hope that I will get this done by May, which is my husband's birthday, and give it to him as a gift. And it's going to be a wedding sampler because it's our 20th anniversary this year. So that's why I have this blank space up here. I still need to chart out exactly what I want this to say. So that is O Joyous Day. Oops, I'm picking up things I shouldn't be. Next one is Portrait of Veronica by Mirabilia. And she's also out of the Q Snap, so give you a good sense of what she looks like. So I can't remember if I had this piece of furniture finished or not, but if it wasn't, I was very close to it. And then basically just came down and started working on her dress down here. And this was getting close to the bottom of the Q Snap, how I had it on. So I pulled it out of the Q Snap and haven't worked on it since because I wanted to show you. So I am going to continue to go down the dress. I want to hit the bottom and then go over. There is some mistake somewhere in here and I can't figure out where it is. I think because I did the skin of 1/1, there's got to be a mistake somewhere in there and I just can't figure it out. So when I get back up here, I will fudge it again. It's like a stitch off and it's not that a row is missing. I think it's just I may have gone in too soon for the arm or something like that. But I think she is coming out lovely. So that's Portrait of Veronica. Next piece I have is Evening Romance by Artisy. So this lovely winter scene. And it's been in quite a bit since I showed this last time. So this is the edge of the pattern. So I've been working in here, sort of pulling colors as what Stitchy Mommy calls the typewriter method. But and she's even changed. And I sort of was doing this anyhow. I have a 10 by 10 block. This is a paper pattern. So looking at the 10 by 10 block, find a stitch that isn't done there, and then as much as I can find it, completing it throughout the pattern. And so this is a page, and then there's like 20 more columns, if that's the word. And again, I apologize. Some guy just went on by some machine on my lawn. Don't know who he is. Don't know what he's doing. It is not lawnmower day. But sorry about that. But anyhow, so this is, so this one I have put in about 1,000 stitches in the month of February. It is its birthday today, so I will pick it up and work on it for a little bit, just to commemorate its birthday. But then it will go away. And probably go away for a while because it is a slower stitch for me. And you can see, I mean, I've done quite a bit on it already. This is the whole top pages of the pattern. Okay, so that is Artisy Evening Romance. And the last piece, I know I worked on Huckleberry Farm, but it didn't pop up. I don't want to have to go digging through my basket to find it. So the last piece I'm going to show you is Three Dancers by Stitching Jules Designs. And here's where it is. I did move the Q-snap, but I pulled off the edge so you can see it. This is now at 27%. So this is a smaller full coverage, but it's really, really enjoying it. Love how the colors are coming out on this. So this past time, I did a lot of work on this dancer. So I think her head used to look like this, and now all the colors here, and worked on her torso. And as colors in her torso came into her skirt here, I was doing them, and then also finished off most of the stitches in her arm as well. And then some of these colors went over into this dancer. And then yesterday, I think I did about 500 stitches in 741, which is that sort of tangerine orange color. And so had a lot of fun working on this. I'm really enjoying this piece. Okay, so that is all the stitching I have to show you. I know it's probably a lot less than I usually show you. But again, with going to Pensacola and taking limited projects I took 2 projects and only worked on one. It was just a chance for me to focus on a few things rather than spread myself quite far. So what are my plans for March? So as I said in the beginning, I do a lot of games and prompt-based stitching. I don't even know what that is. Stitching. And so as a result of that, and I just, I see something and it's a squirrel and I go after it. So in one of my groups, they are doing a version of March Madness. And so I am participating. And so basically, for those of you who might not be in the U.S., March Madness is a college basketball tournament, and it gets a lot of hype. And like many sporting events, in this case, there are 64 teams in their brackets, and it is a one and done. So whoever wins that game moves on. It's not a round robin where there's 2 to 3 games and sort of a bracket and all that. You win, you move on, you lose, you're out. There is no consolation game. And so, except maybe for the semifinals where they determine 3 and 4. And so my bracket, and I set it up, and I set it up with, my focus pieces. I want to make sure that they're able to have an excuse to move on. So I never put them up in the first round against each other. And I don't even think in the second rounds they will go against each other. There may be one time that happens. But doing it with the idea, and I thought, I'm rigging the board. And then I'm like, they always rig the board. They always, they put seeds in the tournament. And they do this whether it's basketball or tennis or ice hockey. It doesn't matter what sport you're playing. they don't want the top two teams playing in the first round. They want them to meet in the end. So I have stacked the board a little bit. So the projects that I want to work on the most will continue to have an excuse to pull them out. I also have tried to combine this with another challenge in Whip Warriors, where they have an event called Lion versus Lamb or Lamb versus Lion. Obviously, a tip of the cap to March in the Northern Hemisphere, which theoretically comes in like a lamb or lion and goes out like a lamb. I live in Florida, so these things, it's already in the 80s right now, and I'm loving it. I'm here for that. But this particular event, whatever the name is, the idea is to start with it's a full coverage event, and you take your full coverage that has the fewest number of stitches and put in 1,000 stitches, and then move on to your next full coverage with the fewest amount of stitches. So not an event for everyone, because a lot of people don't have multiple full coverages, or they have one. And if you have one full coverage, you can participate. But obviously, like once you get your 1,000 stitches, you can't move on to your next one. I last count have like 13 or 14, and they are counting like things that could be full coverage, but no background. So like, for example, I didn't pull it out, but Sunset Koala from the Cross Stitch Studio, it is a full coverage. But I, like almost everyone I know, has chosen to pull out the background because it is a solid white. So I just picked a sort of ivory colored fabric and did it on that. They are counting that, but they are not counting things like a Mirabilia. They're like, this is not a fancy lady event. This is a full coverage event. And so basically, so I also tried to say, okay, how long do I think realistically it will take me to get 1,000 stitches into my pieces, knowing that they're not going to be the things I exclusively stitch on. And then also, once I hit that 1,000, I probably will want to move on to the next one. I'm not going to want to have to keep going back. So March Madness, I sort of had to plan accordingly. Again, slotting them in, thinking, so every 3 to 4 days, I put in another one of those full coverages. And the first round of March Madness takes 16 days. Then after that, and if one of these, and in this version of March Madness, it is just for my board, whichever piece, so March 1st and 2nd, which of those two pieces has the most stitches, that will move to the next round. These 3 and 4, most stitches, that will also, that will play then go against the winner of March 1st and 2nd. Again, I didn't pull it out today. Cats in the Toy Box is the one for March 2nd. I think we all know that I'm going to make sure I'm going to put in 200 stitches on Evening Romance, which is the one for March 1st. I can guarantee Cats in the Toy Box tomorrow will get at least 201 stitches to make sure that it beats Evening Romance. Again, I set up the board, my game. I don't, I know the pieces I want to have move forward, and I'm going to make sure they do. And I'm also not going to make myself forced to stick those pieces. I did put on some pieces that I haven't worked on in a long time as an excuse to pull them out. And I also have other pieces like, assuming that I am able to successfully continue with the full coverage event, Lion versus Lamb, that, I have others that I want to pull out that are not on the board, because if I get to them, they'll be towards the end of the month anyhow. So do the best I can. That's a really long-winded thing about plan. So, and again, all the other prompt stitching that I'm doing. So it's going to be a busy month for me. And I'm also determined to do some full finishes this month as well. I've got a number of pieces that I want to finish. Well, I have one that I'm doing for a smallest exchange, but before I make that one into a finish, I want to practice on some things that I'll keep for myself, because practice makes better. I'm not going to say perfect, but practice makes better. So anyhow, I don't have a lot of haul, but I have 2 amazing things that I want to share. So my local needlework store, my very local needlework store, which is Victoria and Rose Needle Arts, she has several times a month. She just has stitching days. And so I went about a week and a half ago to one of those. And one of the people there had gone to one of the local thrift stores and pulled out, said she goes, and whenever she looks for cross-stitch stuff, and she never finds anything. and she came across a treasure trove of cross stitch this time. And so it was, I think she said, for each thing that she picked up, it was 25 cents. So this place clearly did not know what they had. And then she said most of it wasn't stuff that she wanted to do. So she was just saying, if anyone wants this, but she said she wasn't just going to let it sit there at the thrift store. So she picked it up. So, and I know she also watches this. So thank you, Kim. Again, I know I thanked you in person, but these are the two that I took from her. So the first one, this is from, it's a American School of Needlework, which I'm not even familiar with that. It's called Angel of Fantasy by Barbara. It's Batts, how you pronounce it. And Kim found a number of similar patterns. I took this one because I just love the colors. You don't often sort of see that teal with pinks and purples, and I just love the way. And then obviously got the peacock down there. But I just love the colors on this one. So I took that. And then the other one, which just, as my husband would say, he gobsmacked that this one was just sitting there, and she paid 25 cents for it. This is the Best of Teresa Wentzler's sampler collection, and in quite good condition. Like the person who had this either made working copies or just never did anything out of it. Here are all the patterns in there. English Garden, I believe that's English Manor. Is that the Camelot sampler? I've seen someone working on this. I can't remember who's working on this. But just amazing, 25 cents. So quite amazing. So anyhow, that's my haul. And Kim graciously gave them to me because, that was 50 cents. And we were all joking because we had gone out to lunch that like she had eaten someone's, a couple of her French fries. And she's like, oh, then, you paid me in French fries. I got potato chips. I tried to pay her potato chips. She wouldn't take them. But anyhow, that is all I have. This is a little bit of a shorter video today, just because I didn't have so many projects and haven't had any great reads or watches for the past couple of weeks. So I'm not going to share that with you. So I hope to be back in 2 to 3 weeks. So until then, happy stitching, everyone. Bye.